Podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
The champion, welcome, Danny Batten.
Hey guys, I'm Si. Welcome to A.C.E Podcast Nation, the home of the Danny Batten Fight Show, powered by Violent Money. Please do go check out Violent Money TV on YouTube, the Violent Money products, and in-store at violentmoney.co.uk. And of course, we have a 20% discount for you to use. It's ACE20. Get 20% off all your orders at Violent Money. And of course, you could also check out the Violent Money Academy. It's the first smart gym in the UK. So check that out. We'll have some more information on that at a later date. But for the time being, check it out on social media and on their website, all that good stuff. We're going to kick off this evening with another exclusive interview with a top guest from the world of combat sports. Plus myself and Danny will be talking last night's UFC and all the news from the boxing and UFC world, of course. We are, of course, as well, live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. So do check them out. Please do give us a subscribe on YouTube. All that good stuff really helps us out. Like the videos, all that stuff. And if you like your podcast in audio form, this series and all of our other content, interviews, everything produced by A.C.E Podcast Nation, available at the Sports Social Podcast Network for you to listen to. It's the UK's first dedicated all sports podcast network. They have everything from daily Premier League shows to MMA and boxing and everything in between. So do check them out. sportsocial.co.uk. Great website with lots of stuff. But of course, A.C.E Podcast Station's got you covered for all those subjects. So check out our stuff. Joining me as ever is former Cage Warriors champion himself and a UK MMA legend. It is Mr. Daniel Batten. How are you, mate?
Yes, hi, listeners. I'm good, considering the kind of weekend I have. It sounds like a bad weekend. It was not. It was just super busy, but super rewarding as well.
Indeed, mate. And our guest this evening is none other. Delighted to welcome him back to the show, the channel. It is Cage Warriors Flyweight Champion of the World, Mr. Sam Creasey. How are you, mate?
Very well, thank you.
Good man. It's been a bit of a long time coming, mate, because we had you scheduled in a couple of times and stuff come up, and we didn't end up getting you on, and then you had your fight, and kind of feels like we've been trying to get you on for ages. But it's always a pleasure, mate. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
So kind of just before we dig into you a little bit, Sam, and we ask you some of the hard-hitting questions, as it were, I wanted to get your both opinion. It is an MMA story, but it's a very big story which has kind of hit the world over the last couple of days. Cain Velasquez was arrested for attempted and been charged now as well for attempted murder after he's been charged. So I'll read out the full list of charges just so it's clear. Attempted murder, 1 count. Shooting at a motor vehicle or aircraft, 1 count. Assault with a firearm, 3 counts. Assault with a deadly weapon, 3 counts. willfully discharging a firearm from a vehicle, 1 count, and carrying a loaded firearm with the intent to commit felony, 1 count. If found guilty of attempted murder, faces up to 20 years in prison or up to life, according to California law. The gist of it is there was a guy who had assaulted and sexually abused a child who was related to Cain Velasquez. There was some rumors that it was, I think, his daughter, but I don't know if that's the case, so I don't want to sort of speculate on that. So it was a relative. The person who's being charged with the abuse was released on bail with no sort of conditions and things, and it sounds as if Cain Velasquez didn't like that, ended up chasing him down in a car, shot at the car, hit not the person who was accused of the crime, but actually hit the stepfather of the person. And look, there's all sorts of like rumors and stuff, but that's the gist of the facts that we know. Danny, it's just a kind of a sad story all round, isn't it? Really,
it is. But you can't take the law into your own hands. All that being said, depending on the relative, I know that sounds quite bad, doesn't it? But listen, I'm a parent, Sam's a parent, so you're a parent, and we all have different ways of approaching things. Some of us are happy to allow the law to take its natural effect. And sometimes we feel that sometimes that ain't enough, especially if you feel that someone's got off with something, and you feel like you do want to take the law into your hands if you got facts on the issue that someone, like being a close relative, has been sexually abused. If that is the case, I don't know the actual details on it, but for that front, if anyone touched my daughter in an inappropriate way and somehow got through a loophole, I would do it in a much safer way than he did it. You can't go shooting with a car with other passengers in it. You would single out that person. And I'm not saying that this is what people should do. I'm just saying, for my money, I don't think I could control myself.
No,
regards anything happening to my daughter. I really couldn't. But I'm not condoning violence. We each are responsible for our own actions. He must have just had absolute blind rage and weren't thinking clearly. But that's no excuse. He has to receive, unfortunately, the full brunt of whatever that law is in that state. Absolute ugly situation. No one's a winner all round with everything that's going on. But what seems to be happening is it's just made things a whole lot worse. Not only are they dealing with a difficult situation as a family, but the fact that he might get banged up for 20 years plus is just not helping the situation, right? And also the stepfather. I mean, the stepfather might be a decent individual in every mean. It's not for him to be shot at. He could have lost his life over it, and it's a whole messy thing. And all we could do is speculate our own personal opinions on it. But the law is the law, and you just got to let the law ride out, however that may be at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think if you see Cain Velasquez's mugshot, it's not one of a guy who kind of regrets his decision. He almost looks quite content and happy with it. And look, I think most parents, fathers, when it comes to your own children, there is like a blind spot there, isn't it? In terms of like, if someone hurts them, everyone feels like all bets are off to a certain degree. But like you say, when you start firing a gun, like everywhere, or in a way that can be kind of, you can hit bystanders, you can hit other people.
Yeah, the approach, it was sloppy. The approach he went at is sloppy.
Well, the weird thing is, like, in some ways, if he wanted to punish the guy, having a former heavyweight MMA champion of the world, UFC champion of the world, kind of beat you, would be probably worse than being shot at, I would have thought. But I think it sounds as if it was like a blind rage type thing. He's chased them down. Sounds as if he found out they got bail with no, what's the word? Not precautions, but like no sort of rules or anything. They would just basically, let go. And it sounds as if that was a kind of trigger point for him for lack of a better term. And yeah,
we need more
unfortunate,
details, to be honest. I mean, who knows? I mean, there might have been some taunting going on, after perhaps getting off on the bow, which again, it never ever excuses it, but it might go in his favour, maybe, to say that he wasn't of sane mind during the situation. I don't know. It's a hard one. I'm kind of curious to know what you think, Sam. I mean, you're a very decent individual, and I would say largely in control of yourself, and you have a young family. I mean, could you surmise such a situation, or is it something you can't even put your head into surmise? I know myself, and I know I have my limitations, and push comes to shove when it comes to my kids, there's just no mercy. But that's just me, and that's my approach on things.
No, I agree. I think hindsight is unfortunately a wonderful tool, right? Because we can all imagine a far better way to have approached this, but if he's gone out there in his car, he's chased these guys down, he's got a gun, he's shot, hurt other people. It's not the way to approach it. I mean, I would have no issue if he'd have got hold of the bloke with his bare hands and done whatever he wanted to do. If all the facts are correct, but if you go chasing somebody down in a car, shooting wildly, then it's never going to come to good,
No. Yeah.
No, you put other people at risk.
I can understand his emotions, the reaction. It would be horrific. I don't even want to think about it for myself, but I can understand those emotions.
Yeah, it is a difficult one, and obviously the other side of it is the relative who's involved is likely going to be without. If it's a son or a daughter, is going to be without Cain Velasquez for the foreseeable future to help kind of try and recover and pick up the pieces. So there's also that side of it. It's just a sad situation, and unfortunately, I think on a completely almost separate notion, that people feel so let down often by the way people who commit this type of crime are sort of punished in this country and in the US, that it almost that causes this type of reaction from the victims' families and stuff. But obviously that's a whole nother kettle of fish.
They could have set bail conditions of some sort to kind of try to negate this situation, but if you're released straight back out, and I assume they're living in close vicinity of one another, then that's you just adding fuel to the fire,
but
right?
Isn't there some crazy policies at the moment in some of the Democrat-run states? There's some crazy policies where they're trying to let people out early, giving them shorter sentences for really horrendous crimes. But they've been letting out loads of people, because I know crime has soared, hasn't it, in Democrat-run states, in their cities. Crime has soared exponentially. It's just nuts what's going on over there. So whether California being California, I mean, that's very strong Democratic state. Maybe some people are feeling let down by the law there. I know there's some things. As you know, I take quite kind of interest in politics and around different countries, Canada, America, Sweden. I love it all. I sort of have a little dabble. I'm certainly not a specialist on the facts in any one of these countries. I just find it really interesting how different countries run different affairs. But I know in America, each state largely has its own sort of ruling on what the laws are, and I know Democrat ones generally have created a lot of frustration in America. So yeah, it might be down to those sort of things. I mean, it's crazy, because didn't they had a kid who committed a crime. He was like an older school member. He went in and shot a teacher and several kids, and then got bailed out for like $100,000. And he's out around walking free. I mean, this guy's killed people, and he's out walking free on a 100,000 something along those lines. I think that's the kind of frustration. So whether that's what's happened here, like I said, I haven't dived into it to know the facts. I've been so stacked and busy, but obviously, someone messaged me saying, "Hey, have you heard what's happened?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I've seen some bits," and that's how the information comes to me. So until we know the true details, you can't really make a clear-cut comment on any of the subject, to be honest. But we can only surmise what the facts are, and surmise, therefore, what we think we would do to react, and what we think is right and wrong, right?
Yeah, and I think part of reason why there was quite a lot of frustration afterwards on like social media and stuff like that was that people felt that because he was bailed, but also where the abuse had supposedly taken place, was at his mother's daycare center, which he used to work at part-time, I think it was. But if you've got a bail for that crime with no restrictions, there's nothing to stop him going back to work the next day at that same place, which obviously is a problem, isn't it? Like if you're a parent or a relation, or even just like someone
doesn't
who
sound like
knows about the situation.
Sound policies,
good,
does it? It's not good policies if that's what it is. I don't know actually what California's policies are on a detailed level on that sort of aspect. But the kind of gist that we're getting from this is that he's got out and bound, got freedom of movement to do whatever the hell he wants, and clearly if he's committed any kind of crime, being in nature of sexual violence, and the man's not safe to be on the streets as far as I'm concerned until deemed otherwise. No one should be allowed out on bail if you've committed any kind of violent or murderous or sexual orientated law breaking. To me, you should be held and have the trial run through, then get set free thereafter. But we don't make the laws, do we? Unfortunately, and
I feel for Cain Velasquez's family, I got to say, because they're obviously going to be going through a quite horrific.
Oh yeah.
A horrific time in the moment, and that he's got a lot of backing from people within the UFC and the MMA and kind of a lot of people. They Derek Brunson raised, I think they sent $10,000 to his wife's or to his legal fund. I believe that the UFC are paying his legal, like it got him the best solicitor in the US. Right. I saw somewhere, so like. People are not kind of, people are backing him. And I think generally, as you said, the very, very first thing you said, Dan, is we're all fathers. So we can all understand Cain Velasquez's reaction and sort of behavior towards it. And with hindsight, we can all say, of course, he shouldn't be shooting wildly from a car or where there's other people can get hit. But in that emotion and that rage and that, when you've got those feelings of anger, but also you feel kind of, I can't think of that. I got a really bad headache and I can't think of the words. But like, if you feel really hard done by the situation, where like you feel like the guy's just been allowed out and the law's not on your side, on top of those emotions and things, you don't necessarily think straight. So whereas now we can all kind of say afterwards, he should have. No one would have a problem with him attacking the guy. But it's the gun and the possibility of injuring other people is where the kind of issue is. And,
he might have thought that anyone that's around this guy, deserves as good as what he wants to give the guy himself anyway. If they're willing to be picking him up and taking him from the courts, maybe he thought, doesn't matter who's around him, I'll take them out too.
Yeah, I mean, until Cain Velasquez obviously has his judge... God's sake, his court date. We'll obviously know more facts about from his side. But I did see that it was an American MMA guy on Twitter the other day, said that he was under the impression that Cain Velasquez thought that they were the stepfather was basically trying to help him escape. So he was basically going to do a runner while he was on bail. How he would know that, and I don't know. No one knows today, but sad situation for everyone involved, and obviously it's one we'll I'm sure we'll talk about again at some point. But let's get it back to the fight game, as it were. Brock Lesnar has officially said he's too old to come back to the UFC. Don't think that's a massive surprise, but. When his WWE contract's up, I'm sure those rumors will start again, so he can get a nice big, hefty pay rise. Very quickly, Dan, just before we ask Sam some questions, I want to ask you a quick question. Umar Nurmagomedov was quite impressive last night.
He was
in the UFC.
Yes.
Twice now, he has pulled out of a fight with Jack Shaw for whatever reasons after it was set. This most latest one was scheduled for next week, so he's fought this week instead of next week. Do you think, someone else sent me this question to ask you, basically. They said, do you think the reason why they have ended up not fighting is to try and prolong their unbeaten records so that when they do meet, potentially in the rankings, instead of outside of the rankings, it's a bigger fight? Or do you think Umar doesn't necessarily want to fight Jack Shaw at this particular time? Or do you just think that the UFC has kind of thought, oh, there's better fights for both of them at the moment?
And I think Nurmagomedov knows he can compete against anyone at any level. I think that was proven even a few fights before the one that he had last night, to be honest. But I don't think necessarily avoiding, although I think, looking at the progression of any career, I think you should take the easiest fights as you can for the lesser money, if you will, for your first 3-4 fight contract that you have under UFC. Try to get nothing but wins, and then you've got a good bargaining tool for your next contract, however long or short that may turn out to be. Deal wise, you're not going to push a very good bargain with a 2-2 record, are you? But I think if you're keeping an unbeaten record, you're obviously going to get more money, bigger money, and more negotiable money fighting someone else that's obviously pushing up the ranks, boasting something of an unbeaten record. I think they're waiting. Possibly, you could be right. I think it could be just natural circumstances that have led to it, and they'll face each other, either very soon or a little bit later down the line. Hopefully, both are still as unbeaten, because that would make a great storyline, wouldn't it, of a fight? Both keep racking up wins the way they are. But what a fight that would be, though. Oh, Christ, I would love to see it, because, both of them proved that they can strike, and they're not just wrestle and ground and pounders and submission. They've got true all-round abilities on a world-class level all around. I don't know. I don't think they're necessarily avoiding him specifically in a specific way.
I think it's just weird, isn't it, that they twice had it done. They twice announced it, and then twice. Yeah, one time I think he was injured.
Yeah, his knee, didn't he, or something?
Yeah.
But have you seen the way he kicks? He kicks a little unusual. It's sort of like half semi-contact, half full. Yeah, it is unusual. So if it was a knee injury, I might be getting it wrong. But if it was a knee, I kind of wouldn't be surprised, because it's an unusual way of kicking. So I wouldn't be surprised if he put a knee out. I think other than that, I think him and his team believe they can beat anyone in that division, to be honest. I think that's the kind of mentality we becoming accustomed to with that sort of Russian style wrestlers. I think they're just so confident, and rightly so, because they're just putting off result after result, and they seem to be doing it in a systematic fashion that's becoming so familiar, but no one seems to be able to figure it out. So all for interesting fights ahead, really.
Indeed, mate, it's going to be interesting. But I wanted to put that question to you now anyway, just very quickly, because I'll forget otherwise. It's the main reason. So Sam, obviously now we've got a Cage Warriors event next week, which you're not on, unfortunately, which is a bit disappointing. Were you hoping to be on that card, or was it kind of never really discussed?
Well, I always hope to be on every card, to be quite honest, but I think my body could have done with a bit of rest, to be honest. So, I'm looking forward to watching as a spectator for once. So
some big fights. Some big fights on that card.
Do you go to the show, Sam, to watch then, or do you just watch them? Do you actually go to watch
I have been, but then I've obviously been fighting on most of the recent ones.
Yeah.
All of the trilogies, pretty much, I think I fought on. So I've been to a few before that. But sometimes it's helpful. Gets me, I don't know, a little bit more motivated, I guess, just being in the arena with no pressure on myself, and I can kind of enjoy the moment, which I never really do when I'm actually fighting.
Interesting. So we will talk about, obviously, you had your last fight, which didn't go to plan from your point of view, and obviously there was a bit of controversy going into it as well, and it was all a bit of a thing. Give us your side of the whole thing from the initial fight through to the last fight, and how it was, because it must have been quite difficult for you to kind of deal with that, for lack of a better word, like negative attention in the build up to that fight. Like, it's not something which you would have wanted to have to, to answer and to kind of be constantly put to you.
That kind of thing, it is what it is anyway. My opinion, right? There was no point during that fight, after that fight, where I believe that I've tapped. I know Luke has then put some stuff up saying I have later on. I've kind of just tried to ignore that for the first however long, just kind of thinking it's bad grapes and that. And then we got to the point where I've had a conversation with Graham and that, and I've said, look, listen, we do this again. I don't want to win the title when there's going to be, like a cloud of doubt over a victory, because I don't want to win like that. I want to win like I've really earned it, So I said we need to do the fight again. I'm like, no issue with Luke at all. If that's what he believes, that's what he believes, And I'm exactly the same. I had to ask myself many, many, many times, are you lying to yourself here? Yeah? Are you trying to convince yourself of something different? But, I haven't got a cloud of doubt in my head that I didn't tap in that first fight.
Yeah, do you know, could I just step in and say what I think with the whole situation? Regardless, or even if you did, it's not for you to take anything away from still coming away with the victory. Look, you have judges there to do their job. You have a referee that's there to do their job. Your job is to fight as hard as you can. And sometimes in the fight game, there is a little crafty cage grab. Sometimes there's a little grab of shorts that can actually change the direction of the fight that might lead to a win that wouldn't have been a win otherwise. That is the nature of it. Look, in football, there's always a little bit of cheating going on somewhere, somehow, even in those matches that can lead to a win. It is the nature of the sport. I'm not saying there was any cheating going on, because absolutely, I know who you are. I know who Luke is. And, it does look like a tap, but not a defining tap by any stretch. And that has to be judged in a moment. Look, why didn't Luke stop there and then, like literally, and complain, what's going on? There's that part of it, and you stopped and continued immediately afterwards, and the ref didn't step in at all. I just think you should have just cleared your mind of it and just put a statement out saying, look, I'm there to do the job the best I can. I don't remember doing that tap myself personally, and even if I was, that's for the ref to step in. What if it goes to a judge's decision and it looks like you're winning and it goes over to Luke? No complaining in the world is going to overturn the result. The result is the result, and you live on and you continue on. I actually, as a fan, I wanted to see the rematch of it, personally. But the truth of the matter is, you should have moved on and fought someone else, because it's just it's not your fault, Sam. It's not your fault. And it's very, very difficult. And I would imagine very uncomfortable being asked this question. But I would say this would be the best answer. I'll say your answer was not good, by the way. I'm just saying, from my professional approach, everyone should have just shut up about it and let you carry on your career. It would have been actually better to see you fight other people and for Luke, and then meet further down the line anyhow. But it was what it was, like you say, and you fought again. It never went your way. But then we got the whole problem with the weight cut again, which is so unprofessional, but also not a surprise to me. That I've had dealings with Luke Shanks and know what he's like during weight cut. He lies about his weight. He lies about where it's at. So I'm not surprised. I'm not even sure. Are they actually going to let Luke fight down at that weight again? I'm not too sure if they're going to allow it.
So when there was an interview, I said to Sam just before we went on live, there was an interview which Luke did, I think, about 2 weeks ago with another sort of channel or whatever. And he mentioned that he thinks that Cage Warriors want him to fight at a weight above for at least one fight, and then he wants to come back down and fight for the flyweight title. I think if it was a one-off is one thing, but it's been a couple of times where he's missed weight, and I think at the end of the day, that for me as an outsider, he got what he wanted, in that he wanted a rematch because he felt like Sam had tapped. So he should have made sure that he was at weight and everything, so that there was no issue when the fight finished, whoever won was the champion. That that's his responsibility, and I think he kind of, and I know he said that as well. He said like he felt like he let himself down, he let everyone else down, and he mentioned that in his interview. But it's unfortunate, but that's where we are.
Yeah,
Sam, do you think? Go on.
Well, so I've missed weight before. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if I were to complain about this a great deal, I'm the worst hypocrite around, you know? So I understand everybody else's opinion, their advice on the matter. But I've missed it myself, so I cannot judge the man when I've made the same mistake.
I think it's when the mistakes for a world title on more than one occasion. I think, to me it's not forgivable. And Luke knows me. I'll just tell him how it is, and to me that's not acceptable. Yeah, and I'm sure. Look, we've had James Doolin on. James Doolin's, I would say, has a more stricter approach, a more processed approach to how he wants things done regards his fighters and the coaching fighter relationship. James Doolin would not be happy with him at all. As I wouldn't be happy either. It's just unprofessional, and I think fighters once in a while probably do miss weight, but missing it twice like that, and I don't know. I think it's a little bit more unforgivable. Look, maybe it's because I know Luke more on a personal level, and when he was training with us, and then he went up to Scotland. One of the things that he said, without giving away any kind of private issues, he wanted to break away from like his own all his old history of what's gone on growing up around the Northampton. He wanted a fresh start, but it appears that he's created all the same issues that he had, down in Northampton, up in Scotland. It's just like he's doing the same things. I think he thought that by going up there, he'd be able to have a clean start and acting like a proper professional athlete. And but he's gone back to his old ways in that he's missing weight. I mean, we had big trouble with him cutting weight down at our gym. Big trouble. And it's just happening all over again. So this is something that Luke's either got to grow out of, or got to make a decision to fight upper weight, as far as I'm concerned. And I just think it's unfortunate because it must be frustrating because, there's been 2 fights that you both have had and none of them on paper are official. I mean, it's a waste of your time, waste of his time in the big scheme. Just utterly frustrating, really. And it keeps leaving these question marks. So now it's left open for a third match at some point, which I think doesn't help you in your sort of time of career. And I'm sure it's frustrating for him. I can imagine. So. I don't know. What's the point? Maybe I'm talking. I'm beginning to moan about it. I'm just frustrated with the situation, to be honest.
Like an old man moaning.
I'm ranting. I'll start sitting here with a rocking chair.
Sam, do you think that your next fight will be against Luke for the title, or do you think that because he's going to go up a weight for a fight, you might fight someone else in between?
I would imagine I'll fight somebody else in between. I imagine his next fight is going to be a bantamweight, and then knowing Luke, I imagine he's going to come back down to flyweight, and he'll make flyweight on the next time, and we'll have another fight. And I would imagine that'll be, the trilogy done and dusted between us, and I'll have another fight or another couple of fights in between.
And Sam, because we're asking you uncomfortable questions, are you going to learn to put your bloody hands up? I've been banging on about these hands. I'm banging on about his form. Honestly.
But to be fair, with that fight, I don't think I've ever fought like that in my entire life.
Right.
So not only did I not have my hands up, I decided that I should not move my feet either.
Yeah. Well, you did up and down, but it's frustrating. I've always been quite open about my frustrations with Sam. I think the kids belonged in UFC, as far as I'm concerned. It really has. But if there was ever a weakness in its game, in his game, it was bringing up his form at the right time. And for the best part, he's done very, very well with the fighting style that he's got. but basing your defense of your head with elusivity alone, it's a matter of percentages that all the punches in your division, punches and kicks and knees that come to your head, some of them are going to get through clean. And I just think it's sometimes robbed you at key times. I believe it was when you was fighting for the title. Was it first time around? You got clipped. You was beating the guy all the way through, and he clipped you.
Second time.
Was that second time? Yeah. And we were watching it, and we was like just shaking our heads, like, no, please, Sam, no. Honestly, I'm not kidding you, Cyan listeners. If anyone knows anything about Sam Creasey, he should have been in UFC probably 5 years ago.
I think that Sam does it just to annoy you.
I'm sure he does.
He's fighting and he's like just about to get he's going to kick someone or whatever, and he thinks, you know what, we'll really annoy Danny now.
And the thing is,
I'm just
when he trains when he trains at our gym and he's doing it in there sparring, and and he does do one. It's like watching the Matrix movie. The way he evades so many of the shots come into him. He's got his hands down. I mean, he really is skillful at it. Yeah, he's good at it. And I say to him, bloody Sam, get your hands up. He's always got a pretty little reasons why and a little excuse why. But I will at the right time. And he sways his long hair and he bats his pretty little eyes, and he seduces me into accepting the way he wants to do it.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Is there anyone in particular who you think is maybe due a flyweight title shot, or who's impressed you, or who you'd like to fight next?
I think there are a few contenders around, but there's a couple of Italian guys. I think one of them's got an unbeaten record. He's pretty good. He's a wrestler. He beat one of James Doolan's guys last time round. What's his bloody name? Scott Malone, I think. Out grappled him, and that's a tough ask. What's his name? The Gerard Fanny, I think it is.
Yeah.
The one who fought Jack Cartwright. He's had a couple of wins in a row. Those are possibilities, I guess. I mean,
I saw
fights coming up as well.
I saw someone say that if Aaron Abbey was to pick up a victory next week, that maybe he should get a shot at you, because obviously you're his only loss in recent times. You beat him on a decision back at Cage Warriors 1, 2, 3, I think it was. But he beat Samir Fadine the last time out. So there's a few names that I would about. I think Aaron Abbey, I think, has shown tremendous improvement over his last couple of fights. I thought he looked really good against Samir Fadine, and I thought you and him actually had a really good fight. It was a really enjoyable fight.
Yeah, I really respect Aaron. I look at his backstory and I'm just like, I'm astounded. The man is, he's a great human being.
Yeah,
and just one of the toughest people I could possibly ever meet.
Indeed, I like it. So, so Sam, what's the aims for you? Like, obviously, you're the flyweight champion. You're looking to retain that in your next fight. You're looking to beat Luke. We know this. But in terms of your career, kind of going forward now over the next couple of years, is it like looking to get to the UFC? Is it looking to cement yourself as a Cage Warriors legend, like the man next to you? Is it? I shouldn't have said that. He's gonna get that. He's gonna clip it and keep it forever. Play it to bed every night.
Well, the goal is always to get to the UFC. That is where I want to be. That is where I truly believe when I perform at my best, that's where I deserve to be. And I don't see a skill disparity between myself and the top guys in the world there, to be quite honest. But performances are what count, and I have to go out there again next time and show that the last one was a blip. I do not fight like that. Sometimes I can keep my hands up and put on a good performance again.
Yeah.
What, Sam, if you had to, is there one thing maybe that you could pick out where you think that's why it hasn't quite happened for you in terms of going to the UFC? Because obviously you've been tearing it up and doing well in Cage Warriors for a good few years. You know, you've been putting on impressive performances. You've been working your way towards that title shot, having come close previously. So is there, like, do you put your finger on one reason why it hasn't quite happened for you, or is it just a kind of culmination of stuff?
A few different things, I guess. I took my eye off the ball a couple of times. I think made improvements in some areas, neglected some other areas, and I think I'm always, I'm learning on the job.
Yeah.
I find myself I'm getting better here, and I'm learning more about myself here, even about like the weight cuts and that. I'm only really just getting them perfect now, so I'm rebounding as well as I can. But I think a lot of it is, I haven't performed as well as I could have in the moment. I'm taking my eye just off of the price, just for a second, and with my style, that's not really the best idea.
I mean, it is a great style, though, Sam. Yeah, your style is amazing, and largely it's your strengths. I just think in that weight division where people are so quick, that in and out so fast, I just think that for just, I don't believe in luck, but I'm going to say it just because it explains the situation. Just out of the whole bad luck of the situation, it's robbed you at the worst times of your career, as far as I'm concerned. And it's been ever so far. I care about you a lot. You know that, Sam. We go back a long way back when you were just starting out your MMA endeavors in Leighton Buzzard. And I've only ever wanted the best from you. And every career has its ups and downs, and yours is no different for that fact. I just don't want to see it having its downs because of those reasons that I've been pointing out. That's all. It's only because I care about you, Sam, at the end of the day. Other than that, I think you're one of the
as well.
Yeah, and you're one of the greatest martial artists that I've come across in my time. And I've been doing coaching for about 20 years. I mean, you're absolutely full of potential, always acted very professional. And for someone that don't give I'm a fighter attitude, I think you just go to show that nice men can be tough men too. And I doubly respect you on that front.
I always appreciate it, mate. And I appreciate your honesty.
That's all right. Always. Like, you know me, Sam, always brutally honest. I offend people so often.
Everybody's always kissing your ass, though, otherwise. I've got you.
True.
I've got my brother. I mean, he tells me how it is on a regular basis.
Yeah, he does.
That's what brothers are for, isn't it?
Do you know what? We should get Tom on. I don't know whether he will. He's a little bit shy of the whole, because he don't really have Facebook, does he? I don't think. Instagram, does he?
Facebook now. Yeah, he's on the Instagram again now. But
is he back on that now? But I'm telling you, this kid is, for one, he's got his hands up.
He's the best flyweight in the country right now.
I'm telling you,
flyweight in the UK right now.
How many fights has he got on his record? Is he 4-1 now? He just beat that Ryan. What's his name? Ryan Curtis. No, what was his name? Yeah, Ryan Curtis.
Yeah, Ryan Curtis.
Yeah, if anyone knows anything about Ryan Curtis, he's been top tier. Been out the same sort of time I think as Tom had come out, but Tom schooled him everywhere. Absolutely schooled him everywhere. Tom Creasey is the real deal. It's just that people don't know about it. I think because, Sam, you've been so much at the forefront of people's attention regards to the two brothers. But Tom's coming up through. Trust me, he's coming up through, and he's going to be making shocking waves.
Anybody who's trained with him knows. Anybody who's trained with him knows. You go anywhere in the country, once they've trained with him there.
Yeah, he's technically correct.
Your brother's really good.
He's technically correct. He can run out really good tactics. Therefore, I think a good strategy can always be put into play with him. And so strong at the weight.
How old is he, Sam?
Oh, you bastard.
I think he's 30, 31, isn't he? Like, you wouldn't think it looking at him. He looks really young. I was shocked. Yeah, I think I was shocked when he said it was 30. And I was like, right, we need to get you up and rolling and getting you chugging along. But yeah, I don't think it's so easy getting in fights, because I think some of the fighters know deep down that they're going to be pulling the short straw with this kid. It's going to make a big impact. Trust me on that. Trust me on that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
100%.
Interesting stuff. So Sam, what I wanted to do with you, mate, we're going to play the one-word game in a minute, where I give you a list of names, and you just say the first thing which comes to mind when you hear that name. But before that, I wanted to talk a little bit about the upcoming Cage Warriors event, because there's so many events next weekend that we're going to find it very difficult to fit them all in to talk about. So I wanted to give it's not even next weekend, is it? It's the weekend after, but you know what I mean. The Cage Warriors preview, because we're going to be talking UFC London next week. So I wanted to just talk about a couple of the fights with you, who's obviously involved in the promotion and fights in the promotion. We're going to start at the top. The main event card obviously is someone you know well as well, is in Jordan Vucenic, who's the champion, versus Paul Hughes, is the interim champion, not something which you necessarily always associate with Cage Warriors, having an interim champion. But that's for the featherweight title. It's the main event. It's going to be if it's anything like the first fight, it's going to be a good fight. But how do you see that going? Obviously, you know Jordan well. I'm not sure how well you know Paul, but two good fighters.
You know, I think it probably will go to decision, but I think that's going to be Jordan's. You know, I've watched him like for so long in the gym now. Just every time I see him, he gets better. Like every week, I get to watch him, what he's doing in the gym and that, and he really is like the ultimate professional. But like, no disrespect to Paul either, he's a fantastic fighter too. It's going to be a great fight.
It's interesting. I find it interesting because whenever we've had Jordan on, he'll quite often say to me or to us or both, like, you haven't even seen like half of the things that I'm capable of or that I can do, which is kind of scary proposition in itself when you consider some of his performances. But then maybe like once a month, when me and Danny are just talking, Danny will say something like, "Oh, you know, you should have seen Jordan in the gym this week," or he's got, you know, he's improved so much in the space since his last fight. And I think all the best fighters do that, by the way. They improve with each fight, don't they? And they learn. And you mentioned it yourself. You're still learning. And when you stop doing that, you stop improving and you stop learning. It's kind of when you stay still. But it's quite a prospect when you think how young he is and how good he already seems as a fighter. And, you know, he seems like an exceptional talent. To think that he could go and improve vastly is quite a prospect. But again, like you said, Paul Hughes is one hell of a fighter, and I think he's got a massive future ahead of him as well. It's just kind of, you know, and I say this, like, maybe, you know, he will go on and beat Jordan. Maybe he'll go on and whatever will be. But the way I look at it is, I just think it's almost unfortunate for them that there's these two super talented fighters who are going to fight each other at this stage of their career and the ages that they're at. Because I feel like if they weren't fighting each other, I'm not sure there's anyone else out there who would give them the same fight.
Yeah, it's a UFC level fight, you know.
Yeah, isn't it?
That is, you know. Like Jordan's, one of his main things for me is he's so intelligent in a fight, in where to take it at the right time, and so calm under pressure. Something that I am very much not. But he does it so well in the cage, just kind of knows when to go for what, you know, instead of searching for something that's not really there.
Interesting. It's really interesting. And I mean, Danny, I know it's a bit difficult to ask you about that fight, but I mean, in terms of Paul Hughes, as a coach and as part of Jordan's team, like, what sorts of things are you wary of from looking at from Paul Hughes?
Yeah, I mean, not to give away anything too much. I know. You know, we got a game plan. We have got a game plan, but, you know, one of the things that we did the first time around was give Hughes too much respect, and we went in there thinking it was going to be more difficult in each area, to be honest, than it really was. So we were thinking of countering all the time and defending and worried about what might come. And so Jordan really, he had his chin pulled down on the whole thing, and we just didn't let him go. And I think we instilled that too much in his mind. I think this time around, after seeing Hughes and again, we know he's a talented kid. And we just wasn't too sure how those two would match up when they went in there. Well, after watching the first fight, after talking with Jordan after it, we decided that we're going to let it all go this time in numerous areas of the fight. And you'll know what I mean when he fights on the fight day. And another thing that's changed about Jordan, not only is he improved, in all areas. I've been working on in specific areas, very, very detailed recently, for which he's made huge improvements on, is his physicality's changed. You've got to remember, this kid's just turned 25.
Yeah.
Not really reached full muscular maturity. Now, one thing that was happening up until recent times was that when we were grappling together, although I am heavier these days, I used to fight the same way, but I'm a lot heavier these days, I did notice that I could kind of squash his techniques and squash his athleticism out of him when we were rolling and sparring on the ground. And I put that largely to a few lack of educations, which we put to rights. But the other part of it was his muscles just hadn't hardened in the right way for him to be explosive man on man, to deal with that weight advantage that I had. Now, when I roll with him, it feels much more frightening. This is the only way I can describe it. There's just a different explosiveness to him, and that's been seen in all areas. The way he shoots is more explosive. The way he strikes is now suddenly more explosive. Submission, hip switching, everything's got a whip on it. It's got something about it that's just more manly, and that's going to be the biggest change you'll see, is the fact that he's physically different, not visually necessarily, because he's always had a great physique on him, but he's developed into a man. I think we've got the first stage of his true manhood that's just come into play now, and I think I'll see him good for the next decade if he wishes to.
Good stuff. Good. I think that's a good way to finish up on that fight. Another fight which I'm really kind of looking forward to is there's a catchweight bout between George Hardwick and Lucas Capora. Sam, do you know much about those two?
I've seen George Hardwick before. I don't know the other guy.
Yeah.
I enjoy watching both of the Hardwick brothers fight. They're very entertaining. I love they got really nice boxing for MMA and that. And I'm a big fan of the coach as well, Pete.
Yeah, I'm the same. I really enjoy watching George Hardwick fight. I think it was Dean Truman he fought on the last one. I can't remember. The fight against Dean Truman.
Yeah, that was a few before, I think.
Yeah, there's so many I get confused with them. But
are they the ones who come? Are they the ones that come out really intense? Is that? I'm not getting it wrong. I'm just trying to remember watching them. Do they come out really intense and fast or not? Or am I thinking of the wrong ones? I'm trying to place.
Yeah, I think
he caught the body shot on Dean Truman and
dropped him.
Yeah, finished the fight there. That was lovely.
Yes, he's he got like a goatee beard, haven't he, and like a quiff, whatever it's called. But yeah, no, that's a fight I'm really looking forward to. You've got Darren Stewart's fighting as well. Jeremy Petley, who I'm hoping to interview this week, is fighting at featherweight versus Tobias Harria. Will Curry is fighting Patrick Vallée. And then on the prelims, Danny, are fascinating, especially for us, because I think we've had pretty much all of the fighters on the show at some point. So we've got Rory Evans is fighting Fazil Malik, at bantamweight. Obviously, Rory's looks pretty good in his last fight. You've got Decky McLennan fighting Dan Collins at lightweight. Decky obviously is a super talented young man, and I think he's looking to get back on the road. So looking forward to seeing him fight on Cage Warriors again. And then you've got Steve Amiable. Obviously, Steve is a very experienced fighter. He's fighting James Hendon, which I think that's quite a good, interesting featherweight bout on the prelims. Ben Ellis fighting Nick Bagley. Dan. I spied Ben in the studio last week, which should be out this week, hopefully, or the next Friday, I think. So yeah, that's Ben he looks in super shape. Like,
yeah, I'm lucky. Lucky to
exactly. You can say he's been up with you, haven't he?
Yeah, several times. It's been really nice to see him there. Very, very nice, very, very intelligent young man. And he's never shied away from jumping in there with the Jordans. He'll jump in round after round.
He mentioned that he enjoyed.
Spar
with Jordan.
Yeah, and he never shy to jump in with anyone.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Ben get back on it, because I think he was a bit unlucky with his the loss he had. Aiden James is fighting Kingsley Crawford. I think that is that shouldn't probably be on the prelims.
Main card.
I feel like that should be on the main card.
Yeah, I
think that's going to be a really good one. In the flyweight division, Sam, we've got I'm going to pronounce this wrong, so I apologize. Lona Kavanagh versus Ryan Morgan. So Ryan Morgan fights out of the Matt Academy with Ben Ellis and with Lewis Long, and I've heard that he is a super talent, and he is jacked, like beyond levels that I've ever seen in my life. These kind of people. Sam, you're a bit like it with your bloody 6-pack and all this shit. Like, but Ryan is it's just he seems to be one of those people. I'm sure he puts a lot of effort into it. Like, he doesn't just roll out of bed and eat a Big Mac and look like it, but he's just so jacked. Also coming into my studio soon, but I'm looking forward to seeing him fight on Cage Warriors.
Yeah, he's been up training with us on a Tuesday a few times. I've trained with him for quite a few years on and off, in and around camps, injuries, etc. He is a very talented young man, and that's going to be a great fight. I think actually they're both very well matched there, and be interesting to see how that one goes.
Yeah, I thought it was quite a good on paper. It looks like a good match, doesn't it? To kind of pit them against each other. And Ryan is obviously where he is now. He's had the one fight on, I think, Cage Warriors before. I think this might even be his Cage Warriors debut. Actually, I take that back. But it's his second professional fight, so he's going to be looking to make an impression. I should also mention I've got an interview with Lewis Long coming out on Wednesday, which is a really, really good one. Talking about his life and his upcoming fight in Bellator at Paris. That's a really interesting chat. Lewis is so funny back there, Dan. He's excellent. He's just like I just got soundbite after soundbite. If I wanted to, I could just put out like a load of like 5 seconds.
He's a hilarious guy.
Take him out of context and just it's remarkable. But no, he's a super fight, and look, he's on a bit of a tear now, and it's going to be really interesting to see where he goes next if he wins that fight in Paris, because he's got to be knocking on the door to fight someone in those rankings. I think
surely
he's beaten most people, and even he discussed the one he lost where he kind of got caught going back. Oh, the guy was going back, and just caught him. So he said, I forget the words. He basically said it wasn't you. He doesn't want to say it was a fluke, but like it was like almost like a last ditch throw of the dice by the guy, as opposed to he got beaten by or dominated or something like that. It was more of a the guy was going back and he caught him, which such is life in the game that you guys are in.
Nature of the sport,
indeed. But Cage Warriors 134 Friday the 18th of March on UFC Fight Pass is going to be a very, very interesting card. I'm also hoping to interview a lady called Kate Bassick, Queen of the South, as she's known, I believe. I think she's fighting on a Cage Warriors card soon, I think. But I know they don't do a load of female fights, do they? They do like the sort of occasional one now and again. Like Corey McKenna fought on Cage Warriors, didn't she? And a few others. But I'm hoping to get her on. I sent her a text and through a management company, but hopefully we'll get her on. I think I was trying to find when she's due to fight. I'm sure she's due to fight pretty soon. But yeah, I'm hoping to interview her this week as well. So I got about 3, I think. And who's the other one? James Bowden. So that's another good one. But yes, sorry, I'm just thinking out loud during the podcast. But yeah, no. It's
while
all.
You're thinking, let me. I just want to ask you this, Sam, out of curiosity, before it goes out my. You got that Eagle FC 46, Habib's event, and he's got Kevin Lee and Sanchez fighting. I know Sanchez is a little past it, but I've never been a fan of Kevin Lee's style. I think he's someone that can always be strategized to gas him. Who you got down to win now? I'm going to go for the wild card and think Sanchez is going to pull it off.
Yeah, I mean, I did look at it and think, oh, that's Kevin Lee's all day. Up until more recently, I'm just like, I just don't trust him.
Yeah,
he's obviously physically a fantastic athlete, but you can never tell which Kevin Lee's going to show up. I don't think, because I think he could be a world beater any day of the week if he could get it all together. But Diego.
I just think he might push the play. Kevin Lee, for my money, has never liked it if he gets pushed into deep water with the cardio. I think if he works too hard for a takedown, he suddenly his skill and ability and his strategies all seem to just start to dwindle and fall apart. Everyone knows what Sanchez is going to do, but he's a hard fight for anyone. I think if you allow him to just press that work rate on you, I feel he might push the work rate. If Kevin Lee can't get him down or can't bang him with some big shots and put him out, because Sanchez has been in wars, so it might be possible to knock his switch off. But I think if he doesn't get control of the pace early, I think Kevin Lee could be on the wrong end of it, which would be a shocker to most. But I just got a feeling Sanchez might pull this off. So I'm kind of curious about that match. I mean, to me, no, you can never. I mean, both of them are obsolete on the top high-end world-class scene now, in my mind. But out of just interest of obviously seeing them about for so many years, I'm kind of watching it with interest. And I wouldn't write Sanchez off.
No, certainly not. I think he can spoil the party.
Yeah, so to speak.
Stuff right. Before we let you go, Sam, then we'll play the one word game, as it were. So basically, I'm going to give you a list of names, and you gotta say first thing which comes to mind. So the first name on the list is Joe Calzaghe.
Legend.
Jack Shaw.
Talented.
Conor McGregor.
You're allowed to say anything, Sam.
Yeah, you
can say anything.
I don't even know where to start with that one.
It's difficult to describe it
Whiskey.
in one word.
Whiskey. Great one.
Jake Paul.
Clever.
A lot of people say this, don't they?
Yeah. Colby Covington.
Clever. Underrated.
I think so too. And then we got nice two easy ones to finish. The first one is Tom Creasey.
Champion.
And then the last one is Luke Shanks.
Be nasty. You should have said fat because you don't make weight.
I did. What did you say, Sam? I didn't know what you said. Danny trampled all over you.
Geezer.
Danny's just ruined that now. I can't use this clip because he called Luke Shanks fat.
Put that in.
Danny, you put it as a headline.
Luke
Danny
won't care
Batten.
anyway.
Right. Sam, as ever, mate, absolute pleasure to have you on. Really enjoyed chatting to you. It's always a pleasure, mate. Really enjoy it. Just a pleasant chap, gotta say.
Cheers,
but as ever, follow Sam on social media, all that good stuff. Lots of positivity on that Instagram account. So they feel like everybody needs a bit of that in their life at the moment.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
it's a good place to start. But no, I appreciate your time, mate, as always. Thank you.
See you soon,
Thank
Sam.
you very much. Take care.
Cheers, buddy. He says, can't get him out. He's staying forever. He's stuck. There he is. Sam Creasey, another top guest. Always a pleasure talking to Sam. Let's move that. There we go. Yeah, my laptop's broken, so I couldn't. I had to rely on an old overlay. So we had to have the old overlay for the interview with Sam. Unfortunately, because I like the new one. It's nice and
It's nice.
It's nice and bright and sharp.
It is.
And gets all the Violent Money and the A.C.E Podcast Nation, all that good stuff. So UFC last night, mate. Some unbelievable performances by a couple of gentlemen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go. Let's work backwards, mate. Let's start with the main event and kind of work our way back. We won't go like round by round and all that. We'll just kind of give an overlay of it. I thought Colby Covington was exceptional, to be quite honest.
When he got going, the first round I wasn't overly impressed with what I was seeing. He was overreaching with his punches. He looked a little scared of what might come back at him, and was getting counter kicked by Masvidal really, really well. Do
you know what? I think that might be, mate. Though I think having watched when I was watching the pre-fight interviews, and Masvidal was saying like what he was going to do to him, blah blah blah. I thought back to when he fought Ben Askren, and Ben Askren went straight in for the takedown, and he kneed him in the head. And I thought, I wonder if he's going to try that again. I can't remember what it was. Something he said, and when I watched that first round, I couldn't help but thinking that Colby Covington was almost a little bit wary of getting knocked out early, like by like a big knee or an elbow strike or something. So he kind of held back a little bit. But like you say, once he got going, he was good.
Yeah, I think once he started to get Masvidal down, he knew he always had a get out. And then that gave him more and more confidence as those rounds progressed to be more on the fringe of the pocket to punch, because Masvidal started going back and showing the signs of fatigue. Now, Masvidal's striking is very, very explosive. And, this guy's 37 now he's hitting. And you've got to wonder sometimes, who's in training camp that's really pushing him on the cardio, on the fitness aspect. And trust me, doing 5.5s at the level up with people like Covington, who always displays really good cardio, you got to be doing something a little bit extra different and extra special about your training regards trying to be prepared for someone like that over 5 rounds. I feel like Masvidal may not have done that. And bearing in mind that 37 years old, cardio don't come naturally. You can still get up there with those young guys, but you have to really push it out there, do something extra special in your training. I feel like maybe he just trained the same way that he always does and didn't take into the fact that, look, that clock is ticking on his body. And I think he misjudged himself regards to the cardio aspect there. He basically got gassed, and this is how Covington's won numerous fights through gassing people. But I think Masvidal's mistake was being prepared physically for Covington. I think once Covington started to figure out how it was that he was going to go about winning, probably from round 2 onwards, it was a one-way traffic to not an easy victory, but one-way traffic to a very well-defined direction of victory. And Covington did it very, very well, very, very well. Ended up landing some very, very nice strikes, some great wrestling, really good some aspects of ground control, and made better and better decisions as the fight went on. I just didn't like that first round. And I thought when I saw that first round, I thought, right, if Masvidal could start really pushing and injecting some pace and aggression in that second round, we could have had a real fight on our hands. But Masvidal physically just couldn't do it. He got weaker per round. He faded per round, whereas Covington grew per round.
Yeah, and I think I think it was the 4th round where Masvidal just caught him with a shot. But he just didn't have the energy to follow it up. And
yeah. I mean, that's a telltale sign of how he was feeling in that. Masvidal, if he tastes blood, he goes all out. But you've got to have energy to do so. He just did not have the energy, the physical capability to follow it up. You see him throw some strikes out after that, and they were literally just being pushed out. he'd hit the limit. He'd literally hit the limit. Well done to Colby Covington, and I like what Sam said, saying he's underrated. I think he is. I think Covington would be the outstanding number one if it wasn't for the man that we all know who's beaten on more than one occasion. If it wasn't for Usman, Covington would be the reigning champion. But Usman's just that little bit better than Covington all around. So just go to show the talent.
I do think they'll fight again, though. I do think they're going to fight again.
I think they will fight again.
Soon.
I think they will fight again. Yeah.
So
But Covington's got to come with something different now. He's got to come with something different with Usman. He can't go in there doing the same as the first two, because Usman's probably as evolved as he's going to get. I think he's one of the greatest fighters in that division that we've ever seen, ever, in being well-rounded. I mean, okay, not skillful off his back, but he doesn't have to be. He's not someone who's going to play off his back at all. But in terms of enforcing what he wants when he wants on a fighter throughout those bouts and round, each round and each fighter, it's just second to none. He just puts it where he chooses to put it, and when someone tries to ruffle his favors, he's so good at controlling the matter. So yeah, that's just one to put things in perspective. Covington would be an outstanding number one if it wasn't for Usman. Usman just overshadows him, unfortunately. I think sometimes this makes people not rate Colby as much as perhaps they should be. I mean, this guy is a special talent. He really is.
Indeed, he is. Then we had Rafael dos Anjos defeated Renato Moicano via unanimous decision. I didn't see this one, so I'll leave this.
You missed a treat. A great fight. Look, Renato Moicano, great fighter, very dangerous fighter. Took it on short notice. You could perhaps see it in his energy that it was a short notice. He was slightly off tempo, whereas Rafael was just on form, on absolute form. Now, one thing that I always noticed about Rafael, his weaknesses, was that he sometimes backtracks when defending with his footwork and gets pressed up against the fence. And he has got a little bit of old school takedown defense up against the fence in these fixed pieces, similar to Barboza, and that has got him losing rounds and having rounds smothered from him, either pinned up against the fence or being taken down repeatedly against the fence. Renato just didn't have the energy to do so. And Rafael's wrestling was just so on point. I think just stylistically, and the slight height difference, and Rafael's got quite shorter leg, shorter body composition. He was able to get underneath him with that wrestling, and showed great timing. Rafael's got very good cardio, and normally just puts that work rate. It's very similar to Covington. He'll throw a miss to throw and land, but it seemed everything that he was doing was very well calculated. He was very efficient. What he threw nearly always landed, and when he shot, he nearly always got the success of that takedown. His ground and pound was very choiceful as well. He was not wasting much at all, although it kept a very good work ethic. It's one of the best Rafaels that we've ever seen. But could we argue that that's because Renato took it on such short notice? I don't know for sure. We just have to see Rafael get in there again. But look, he's always in fantastic shape. I just want to see whether he can perform this good up against someone that's going to keep shooting and pressing him up against the fence, where I've seen that he might be a little fragile, a little bit weak, and to see whether he's put those wrongs right. Time will tell, and that will all tell on whether the matchups get matched up accordingly with that stylist. But great fight, good one to watch, definitely one for watch. Renato showed such courage in there. He had an eye that was closing up. The doctor come in 2 or 3 times from Goddard, getting the medic in to have a look at his eye. His eye looked messed up. It looked really nasty when he pressed in against it, and it all bulged out with all this blood and swelling. But he could still see out of it, and he had no quitting. He wanted to get in there and had a couple of chances. He was landing some strikers on Rafael, but he just didn't have enough pep on him because of having the cardio squeezed out of him in those early rounds. But great performance from both, really, when you really sit back and look at the circumstance of how this bout come about.
Yeah, and I think it would be maybe interesting to see, with Moicano, with a full camp under him and stuff. But look, I just think it wouldn't be that much different. I think it's the fair way to put it.
Yeah.
Like, not that I fully accept that he did take the fight on short notice. There's nothing you can't say he didn't. But I just don't know if there would be that, because Dos Anjos is a very, very talented fighter, and I think sometimes doesn't get the respect that he deserves. I think sometimes people write him off a little bit as
he's another one that got overshadowed a little bit when Khabib come on the scene and kind of overshadowed him a little bit. Rafael is an incredible, well-rounded athlete. He's got some great attacking wrestling. He's got very, very good striking combinations and feeds, and exceptionally good grappler. Like I say, just one tactical weakness that I ever saw against him was that he backtracks too long, too far, going backwards and get himself pinned against the fence. And I think his cage defense is set piece orientated. And people would see what I mean. If you watch Rafael and you watch Edson Barboza, both have very, very similar defensive wrestling. And it's just too outdated. They'll get found up against these chain wrestlers and these people with the modernized wrestling game. They have to evolve that if they want to stay in the mix against all styles.
And then we had a fight. I was so looking forward to this fight. In Bryce Mitchell versus Edson Barboza. I was so looking forward to it. It was Bryce Mitchell's biggest test to date. Like, it was really like this was the this was time for him to step up and show was he the real deal? Could he do it against someone not only who had a name but also who had skills, all-round skills to ask questions of him? And I thought he answered those questions pretty bloody well, mate.
Yeah, look, there was no secrets on either party on where they wanted the fight to be and where they was probably going to get their results. And it was a case of, did Barboza prepare in the right way to avoid the grappling situation? And did Bryce figure a way of trying to use his striking to get in and frustrate Barboza into overcommitting and taking his legs and hips away from him? And Bryce Mitchell, he was the one that come out victorious in that. Bryce Mitchell even knocked Barboza down because of the threat of the takedown. It made Barboza not be able to do what he would normally want to do against someone who perhaps would be willing to trade and strike with him a little bit. And it left him open. It caught him unawares and caught him by surprise. When Bryce started really committing to his strikes, he actually looked really good. And he really did. But look, he figured Barboza out. He got him down to the ground. And I know the commentary were talking a lot about Barboza, how much did it take out of him to cut down to that weight. He's 5'11", very, very muscled. He is a big boy at that weight. And also not a young man in that division anymore. Sorry to harp on about age, but it does make a difference. It really, really does, depending on what your fighting style is. And you've got to wonder, when you look at Bryce Mitchell's slight build and you look at the stature of Edson Barboza looked the weaker one with the exchanges on the ground. Okay, largely because Bryce Mitchell's technically better than him on the ground by quite a few degrees, we would only suggest. But I think it was the fact that he has such grueling weight cuts to get down, and I think his muscles are left wanting. But look, Bryce Mitchell's timing as well for the takedowns. He got underneath the hips and legs of Barboza so beautifully clean. I think his takedowns were 4-on-4. I mean, every attempt was being nailed. Incredible genius preparation or genius reactions. I don't know what you want to call it, but I thought Bryce Mitchell was going to have a lot harder fight than he did have. And I think he's proved all his critics wrong. And this kid is the real deal. And people have got to try and figure out how they're going to deal with this young lad, because he can show he can strike, even though we only saw it in a little fleeting moments. He showed he can strike as well. Don't think you're going to beat this guy just because you're going to force him on the feet longer than he wants to be. But the threat of always being taken down is always going to be there too. Showed great control. We didn't see him dominate the positions like we so often have seen him do, but we did see him work and control that closed guard situation where Barboza had no real opportunity of ever getting up off his back. And that's a real sense of control and knowing about your base and balance to maintain that control on top. Great work, brilliant. And I'm kind of excited to see who they'll offer Bryce Mitchell next.
I thought Bryce Mitchell looked noticeably more muscular in this fight. I thought he looked a bit chunkier and a bit bigger than he has done previously.
Yeah. I mean,
it could be just
possibly. Yeah, possibly. I mean, Barboza, it will put most people to shame physically. He's got a God-given physique right there. He really, really has. But I would say Bryce looks a little bit thicker up top. He's never going to be particularly well set in the leg. He's got slim build legs. But yeah, he was a little thicker. I think he knew he had to try to cater for the natural size advantage Barboza was going to bring into this match. And so probably him and his team decided to, pack him up a little bit to help diminish any of the advantages Barboza may have had there. But I honestly think that even if he didn't go on some kind of strength program, I think Bryce Mitchell's timing, technique, tactics, and strategy would have still been on point on a level that Barboza couldn't have prepared for. And I'm only saying this because the fights happened, because I now know. But yeah, there was a little buzz going around the gym about this fight because it kind of almost reflected the old school days where you had a prolific striker against a prolific grappler, and they don't want to sit in between each other's worlds. So it was going to be who was going to enforce their worlds. But Bryce Mitchell showed some inklings of great striking as well. It's a little bit like how I questioned Jack Shaw back very early on. I was saying I want to see more of Jack Shaw striking. I've seen him just dominate with the takedowns and the grappling so emphatically. We've not really seen him tested on the feet. Well, look, we got to see him on the feet because he was addressing an issue while he fought, and his striking was bloody good, and he was injured. I mean, wow, is all I can say.
Impressive stuff, I thought.
It is, yeah.
And then we had Kevin Holland defeated Alex Oliveira via a TKO in just 30 seconds into the second round. Yeah. How do you think Kevin Holland did?
Wow, Kevin Holland. Didn't he look physically different as well? He looked so physically different. I mean, absolutely looked like a proper athlete. Okay, still got some crazy ways about him. Definitely scrambled up, got better. His wrestling defense is definitely made a remark improvement. Looks so sharp, and he didn't look like he was breathing heavy at all. And even he picked up on it in the after fight interview with Joe Rogan. He said, look, I'm not at all gassed. I think this division is suiting him down to the ground, and it appears that he's trying to get those wrestling issues defensively sorted. I think we could see a new lease of life coming from Kevin Holland. I'm so happy about that. I love Kevin Holland a bits, man. He's such a good character, really, really is. But I imagine to coach him and to be in the corner could be a frustrating affair. But I think he was more coachable than ever before from what I've seen. Rangy long, he needs to use his tactics better and perhaps have a bit of strategy in place. He's got so much height and reach over people in that weight division, the welterweight division. He perhaps needs to learn to use what and who he is physically to make it an even harder proposition for the opponents that he's predominantly going to face, which are going to be shorter, stockier people. Look, and Alex Oliveira, he did some good things in there as well. He's super dangerous. Someone that I would say largely been underrated, and floating below the radar, I guess you would say. But he would be a tough fight for any fighter in that division, you would think. But Kevin Holland, he just looked like he was confident and he knew he was going to get the win. It was just a matter of time. He knew it was going to happen at some point. And it was a great finish, a great stoppage as well. And look, that Alex Oliveira, look, he come up and congratulated him straight away. He showed some great sportsmanship, which I think perhaps don't get mentioned enough between these fighters. Great all round for everyone. I'm so happy for Kevin Holland. I just hope that he keeps this improvement trajectory and he keeps doing it down at that weight of welterweight.
Yeah, I know you're a big fan of Kevin Holland, but yeah, I thought he was about as impressive as he has been in that fight, particularly. Yeah, like you say, the weight change seems to suit him. And then finally on the main card, we had I feel like I've missed one.
Greg Hardy.
Sergei Spivak versus Greg Hardy.
And look, Greg Hardy, he comes in thick and hard. He's a massive, massive man, 6'5", with an incredible 80-inch reach. Although Spivak's got a long reach himself, I think 78-inch, 78, isn't he? Some reach he's got. Really big reach himself. But Spivak clearly improved his wrestling and takedown capabilities. He looked really, really good there. Looked good with his striking. this young man's clearly on some trajectory of improving all his all round aspects of MMA. Greg Hardy seemed to have essence of confidence about him, but that confidence didn't last long, because when Spivak got hold of him, he tripped him with a largely known as a judo throw, and really controlled the affair on the ground. It was an impressive finish. Taking him down repeatedly, getting that mount position, hitting with the hard ground and pound. Someone else with a new lease of life. I'm kind of really excited to see where Spivak will go from here. It seems that he's on the up. And for Greg Hardy, he's got to go back to the drawing board somewhat here, and think about perhaps trying to hit the approach defensively and aggressively with a little bit more diverse skill set. But yeah, Spivak all the way, man. He's someone got to be looking out for. I think he's made that much improvement. He's going to become chasing up that ranking soon with this new skill set of his. I'm sure that it's not just because he was fighting someone of Greg Hardy, which some people would not say that he's largely skillful. I wouldn't say that. I would say that I saw Sergey Spivak fighting on a technically better level than we've ever seen him before. This kid's on the up.
That's interesting to me, that is, because you've looked at it as how good Spivak was. Part of me thinks like Greg Hardy's just come up against someone like who's just too good for him, ultimately. So yeah, I just we always kind of questioned, like, when Greg Hardy fought those top guys,
become unstuck, hasn't he?
Yeah, was he didn't have the all-round game to cope with that. Just from an all-round MMA point of view, he's got power. He's got, he can knock people out. We know that. But when it comes to those guys who've got a bit of skill, not more than a bit of skill, was he going to have the defense and the capabilities to deal with that? And I honestly, I don't think he has, really.
No.
I do think he's improved a lot, but he's not.
Yeah. But it's just the other things I saw Sergey doing, the way he controlled the hips. He was just doing all the right things at the right time, as Greg Hardy was trying to do the things to resolve the issues. The way he tried to stand up, the way Sergey was on his back, weighing down on the hips, controlling posture, forcing the tripod position. A lot of more, people in the MMA world who've competed will understand the terminology that I'm using here, but basically trying to get him to plant a hand back down on the mat. The way he controlled things in transition goes to show me that Spivak's clearly on the up of understanding what MMA is in its completion, certainly in the forms of his attacks. We never really saw him defend because he was the aggressor in this match. But I suspect that we've seen him on a whole new level of what we've seen him previously. And, okay, so let's see him up against someone other than Greg Hardy. Although not taking anything away from Greg Hardy, it can be a difficult proposition for anyone, being the size of the man. And it comes with so much knockout potential with his physicality. But I think that Sergey, I think he's the real deal. And I think he's going to start making some noises through the division within the next 18 months to 2 years. I just hope they keep him active. Oh, I can't hear you, Si. I'm not hearing you.
So, yeah, sorry. I was just going to say, the other fight I watched was Umar Nurmagomedov versus Brian Kelleher.
Yeah, I watched that.
And Brian Kelleher, look, this was a challenge for Umar. Like, it was no, doozy, easy fight. It was this was against someone who's done some big things over the years. He's a storied and clever veteran fighter. So Umar needed to do his thing and do it well. He did very, very well. He was very, very impressive. I still question that no one has really tested him. So I would like to see how he reacts to that test. But then that's the same as Chimaev. But the reason they haven't been tested is because
they're so good.
Yeah,
they're so good at what they do.
They haven't given anyone an opportunity to test them. So
have you noticed the Russian wrestlers have got such a systematic response to the way they not only take people down, but they know that they have to go through this tripod stage to get back to their feet up against the fence, and they do almost the same repeated process time and time again. They're catching people out with the same thing. There's going to have to be either a new development of avoiding being put up against a fence in the first place to stop the takedown, stop the issue before it starts, or people got to come up with new innovative ways of scrambling back to their feet, because doing it the method that we've seen so much regards US and American style wrestlers up against a fence is not cutting it against these Russians. They're controlling the posture, they're enforcing the tripod position, and they're exposing, therefore, their backs, and they're hitting in these chokes and ground and pound. Something's got to be introduced, a new way of thinking, a new tactic about this situation. Otherwise, people are just going to come unstopped time and time again. Anti-wrestling, whether that's in the form of footwork, elusivity, or blocking the entry, and being aggressive with it, so not just defending, always counter-attacking, so blocking the entry, cutting angles, and being aggressive on the counter-striking, or like I say, finding new innovative ways of getting back up to the feet, because everyone seems to be doing it the same set sequence way, and there's no secret about it. So when you've got a same sequence way of getting back to the feet up against the fence, it doesn't take much to create systems of reigniting the takedown as they do come back to their feet by out positioning them, having hold of the hips, and taking them back down again, or lacing up the leg, which you're seeing these Russians do. They put the leg up through the foot that's grounded, the knee will be up against the fence, the outside foot will be propped up ready to try to reverse and stand up, and they're lacing up that leg, and they're sitting in the hooks, and they start attacking the head and neck. We're just seeing it so often. People got to figure out this chain that they're doing, this process that they're doing. I think I have the answer.
Well, tell us the answer then, Dan. Come on.
No, you're going to have to wait until one of my lads goes up against them. Oh, I'm putting myself on the spot here, so I am.
Yeah, I love it. So maybe one day we'll see like Jordan versus Chimaev or someone.
Mm.
You know,
who knows? Well, Chimaev's a bit too big, I'd imagine. But
what's Chimaev? What's the smallest Chimaev's fought at?
I think welterweight, right? He hasn't done lightweight, has he?
I think did he fight? I don't know. I'd have to check.
Because he's about 6'2", isn't he? He's not a small dude.
He's that big. But I thought he fought a lightweight just for one fight. But I might be wrong.
Maybe he did, but damn big lightweight.
I think he's deceptively big, isn't he? I think sometimes people don't realize quite how big he is.
Yeah.
In terms of his height and stuff.
He's 188 centimeters. Yeah, 6'2".
Big boy. I've seen a lot of. I saw Darren Till saying some interesting stuff about Chimaev the other day, because he's been training with him, and he's just basically saying like he's the real deal. He is not like a hype job. So I've seen a few people saying that recently. So like, which makes that makes me take much more notice than just like a random journalist or whatever.
Of course, yeah.
You know, people like podcasters and different people. Like everyone's got like a personal relationship with someone in some way, haven't they? And that's why I always say like I'm probably the worst person to listen to when you say, "Oh, who do you think is going to win between Jack Shaw and whoever, or one of the Welsh boys and whoever?" Because 9 times out of 10, I'm going to opt for the Welsh boys because I know
your heart goes with it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things. Or even with like not even just the Welsh boys, like with Jordan or whoever, I'm always going to fancy them over their opponents. It's just the way it is. Unprofessional, some people would call it, but I sort of call it.
That's okay.
So, Mr. Daniel Batten, as ever, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. We have got a beautiful couple of weeks. Next weekend is going to be the calm before the storm. Is there UFC
Yeah, we got lots going on, haven't we?
That following week. Oh yeah, just one sorry, Dan. I think the weekend of UFC London and Cage Warriors Manchester. We will be on a Monday, not a Sunday. So we'll be on the Monday after the Cage Warriors and the UFC weekend. A few different reasons, but that's only just a 1 week thing. It'll be on Monday instead of Sunday. So please join us. Go on, Dan, what were you going to say, mate?
Yeah, I just wanted to say about the guys, some of my guys that fought over the weekend, just to give them a little shout out. We had 2 amateurs fight on the Battle Arena card. Hassan, he's gone up to 6-1 now. As amateurs and being these young men, they make mistakes, and the mistake wasn't so much in the fight. His mistake was how he rehabilitated after the weight cut, and I could see there was something amiss with him when he was in there, but because he's ground it out with Jordan, sparring people like Jordan, Tom Mearns on a regular basis, Nick Hayes, another one of our pros, he jumps in there with all these guys, and he's got experience through the in-club sparring, if you will, and he's experienced real pull through and put together some great aspects in his rounds to pull off a unanimous decision win. That was great for Hassan. Well done on him. And also another fighter we got previously resided from Moldova, Vinny. We got a couple of Moldovan lads that are going to burst onto the scene. He's got some great wrestling capability. This kid's just 17 years old, yet he's got a body like a Mr. Universe. God, incredible physique this young lad has. An absolute animal, but he ended up having a real tough fight. Some kid with some great ground skills, some great striking skills, but Vinny prevailed and put some harsh beat down on the young lad, but another great decision victory. So that was the amateurs. Then I had to shoot from Birmingham all the way down to Swindon for Lucas Klinger. So Lucas Klinger's fought on short notice on Bellator before, to give you an idea of the sort of heights that he's reached. I think he's practically turning 40 now, so really in the twilight years. Decided to go up to heavyweight to fight an unbeaten fighter of 5 fights. I think it was 5-0, 6-0 or something like that on Raged UK. A great fight. It was won in the 3rd round, 3 minutes 30 into the first round. But my God, so much happened in that 3 minutes 30. They were both trying to take each other's heads off. But the experience of Lucas Klinger showed through with some great deep double leg penetration takedowns. Great back takes, although one nearly went fouled on him dismally as he slipped off with the sweat, but recovered position, got on the back a second time and put it away with a rear naked choke. So he's now heavyweight Raged UK champion. So yeah, great weekend, busy weekend, lots of driving, but I don't mind when we pull in the results like that. A big smile all round, and even bigger smile on my face, because I feel like I'm daddy looking at his kids progress.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those, isn't it? It's like I know, like, particularly at amateur level, it's about learning and stuff. But when you're making those long journeys, like I remember when I was doing long journeys with my boys for football, and when you do those super long ones, it does just take the edge off the long journey home if you have like a good performance or a victory, and kind of like you just feel less dead. And less.
Yeah. I'll tell you, there's a lot that goes in. I mean, we went up together, me, Raymond Paul, my assistant coach. We went up together. He works the doors, so he comes off of a night shift. So, and I don't finish to the early hours. I'm doing all sorts of bits at the gym, and so we both was on 3 hours sleep, driving all over the UK to support these fighters. It was not easy. So a little shout out to my mum. I know my dad listens to the podcast, so a shout out to my mum. She was on the phone to me for over an hour to keep me awake as I drove back from Swindon all the way home. Because Raymond Paul, he had gone back with some other people that were from Northampton. I had to go back to MK, so I went back on my own. But my mum kept me company the whole journey back till the early hours of the morning. But she's a night hawk like me, so it was okay.
Still, it was good, isn't it? Because there's nothing worse than if you are going on like a couple of hours sleep, but driving back on your own is can be difficult, right? Because you don't want to fall asleep, but your body can only take so much, and the heaters and just the everything.
That's it. It was raining,
the motion,
dark. The roads were quiet, but the good thing about the way my car set up, you can set up your phone through Bluetooth. So before I set off on my journey, I can call and talk through the speaker. I'm not up on the technologies, but I got shown how it can work in my car. So, it was all done safe. Don't think I was talking on the phone like this. I wasn't everyone. So, it was all done legal and above board. No, and it was great. Me and my mum did some nice reminiscing. So thank you, Marmy.
What a way to finish. What a way to finish. Guys, thank you as ever for joining us. Appreciate you all. Thanks for downloading. Please, most importantly, make sure you share, you tell your friends, tell people. We've been doing some good numbers in the views and also in the audio downloads. More and more people are downloading it to listen to. We appreciate you massively. If you don't watch live, you can still send in your questions either on social media or email. Send us a letter, whatever you want. But you can send your questions in. Even don't think that just because you don't watch live, you can't ask your questions. Danny Batten Fight Show on Facebook and Instagram, Danny Batten FS on Twitter, or A.C.E Podcast Nation Official on Instagram and the Facebook. We are there. We are waiting. Answer your questions. But until next week, we will bid you farewell. Thank you very much for joining us. Cheers, Dan. And of course, thanks to Violent Money, thanks to Sam Creasey, and thanks to everyone else. Nice one. He says, and he can't find the clip, so still here, waiting for the countdown.